Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully, because this matters. A 71-year-old man passed away this morning. Someone's father, someone's husband, someone's friend, and yet the world kept spinning. Cars honked on the streets. Phones buzzed with trivial notifications. People scrolled endlessly, numbed by the sheer overload of modern life. But pause, just for a moment. This was a man who lived. He laughed, he wept, he made mistakes. Maybe he built something meaningful. Maybe he wasted years in quiet desperation. Maybe he had regrets. Things unsaid, things undone. But one thing is certain, his time ran out. A 71-year-old man passed away this morning. That fact alone should make you pause. Not just because death is a tragic event, but because it is an inevitable reality for every single one of us. Yet despite knowing this, most people go about their days as if they have an unlimited supply of tomorrows. They assume that life is something to be endured passively, as though the future is guaranteed. But it isn't. And if you don't wake up to that truth, you risk wasting the very thing you cannot get back: time. The world doesn't stop when someone dies. It moves forward, indifferent to individual loss. The streets remain busy, conversations continue, and the news cycle doesn't skip a beat. This can seem cruel, but it's simply the way life works. It reminds us that we are temporary, and whether we like it or not, our time here is limited. The problem is that most people don't internalize this truth until it's too late. They push aside their ambitions, avoid difficult conversations, and convince themselves that they'll get around to important things someday. But someday is not promised to anyone. If you truly grasp this reality, it should shake you. It should make you reconsider how you spend your days, who you choose to be, and what kind of impact you leave behind. Are you living in a way that, if your time ran out tomorrow, you wouldn't be filled with regret? Have you spent years in avoidance, procrastinating on the things that truly matter? Are you coasting through life as if it will go on forever? Because it won't. And when your time comes, the only thing left will be the choices you made while you were here. The man who passed away this morning might have had plans. Maybe he was going to fix a broken relationship, start a long overdue project, or finally do something meaningful with his time. But now, he never will. That door has closed forever. You, however, are still here. You still have a chance. You can change direction, take action, and live with purpose, but only if you recognize the urgency of the moment. The greatest tragedy isn't death itself. It's a life spent sleepwalking through time, never truly waking up to the fleeting nature of existence. Life is not a gentle, effortless journey. It is suffering. It is struggle. It is filled with burdens that you are required to carry, whether you like it or not. People often try to avoid this truth, pretending that life should be easy, that happiness is something owed to them, or that discomfort is a sign that something is wrong. But that's a mistake. The sooner you accept that suffering is an unavoidable part of existence, the sooner you can take responsibility for it and turn it into something meaningful. If you do not carry your burden properly, life will break you. It does not care if you are tired, if you are afraid, or if you feel unprepared. Hardships will come: loss, failure, betrayal, disappointment. And if you are not standing strong, if you are not prepared to take on the weight of responsibility, then you will crumble under it. You see this happen all the time. People who collapse under the weight of their own misery, who numb themselves with distractions, addictions, or excuses because they cannot face the reality of suffering. But avoidance does not remove suffering, it only makes it worse. The proper response to suffering is not to complain about it, nor to run from it. It is to take it on voluntarily, to stand up straight, shoulders back, and carry the heaviest load you can bear. This is not a metaphorical suggestion, it is a deep psychological truth. When you take on responsibility, when you embrace the challenges of life rather than shy away from them, you transform suffering into meaning. A difficult job, a demanding family, the struggle to improve yourself. These things are not burdens to escape from. They are opportunities to forge yourself into someone strong, capable, and worthy. People who refuse to accept suffering as part of life become weak. They blame others for their misfortunes. They expect the world to change for them instead of changing themselves. They become resentful, bitter, and incapable of handling even the smallest hardship. Do not let that be you. Accept the struggle, carry your burden, and do it willingly, because there is no other way to live with dignity. Life will always be hard, but if you face it properly, it will also be worth it. Most people live as if they have unlimited time. They assume that tomorrow will always be there, that opportunities will wait for them, and that they can afford to put off what truly matters. But this is a dangerous illusion. Life is not a practice run. You don't get to rehearse today and then live it properly later. Every single moment that passes is one you will never get back. If you are not treating today as if it is a critical part of your existence, then you are wasting it. There is a tendency to believe that real life begins at some distant point in the future, after you get the right job, after you fix certain problems, after you finally feel ready. But that moment never arrives. The truth is, your life is happening right now. The way you spend today is the way you are spending your life. Every decision you make, every hour wasted, every important task avoided, it all adds up to define who you are and what your existence will mean when it is over. People who fail to grasp this truth often look back with regret. They see all the time they spent in meaningless distractions, in procrastination, in avoiding the difficult but necessary actions that would have made their lives better. They realize too late that they should have spoken up, should have taken action, should have lived with urgency. But by the time they recognize it, the window has closed. There are no second chances to go back and live differently. The most dangerous trap is thinking that you have more time than you do, that you can put off that important conversation, that you can delay the work that truly matters, that you can waste another day scrolling through distractions instead of building something meaningful. But every moment spent in avoidance is a moment you will never recover. You are either growing, improving, and living with purpose, or you are letting time slip away, hoping that someday you will magically become the person you were meant to be. There is no someday. There is only today. If you don't act now, if you don't start treating your life as something urgent and valuable, you will wake up one day realizing that it's too late. The time to take control, to pursue meaning, to step into responsibility is not tomorrow, it's now. Words left unspoken can haunt a person far more than any mistake ever made. The truth has a way of lingering, of pressing against the mind, demanding to be acknowledged. Yet people avoid it. They hold back from saying what needs to be said, either out of fear, pride, or sheer procrastination. But the reality is this: there will come a day when you no longer have the chance to say those words. A day when the conversation you've been putting off will never happen. And when that moment arrives, the weight of what was left unsaid can become unbearable. People often assume they will have time to fix their relationships, to apologize, to express their love, or to make amends. But time is not something you can negotiate with. If a person is gone, whether through distance, estrangement, or death, then the opportunity is gone too. Regret is a heavy burden, and it is carried most often by those who remain silent when they should have spoken. The father who never told his son he was proud of him, the friend who never apologized, the sibling who let resentment fester instead of mending a broken bond. These wounds do not heal on their own. They stay open, reminders of what was never resolved. Telling the truth is not just about avoiding regret. It is about living properly. A person who speaks honestly, who expresses their thoughts with courage and clarity, does not live in fear of what might have been. They do not let relationships decay through silence or avoidance. They do not wait for the perfect moment to say what matters, because they understand that the perfect moment rarely arrives. The truth can be difficult. It can be uncomfortable. It may even cause temporary pain. But the alternative, living with the knowledge that you never said what needed to be said, is far worse. Speak now while you still have the chance. Tell people you love them. Apologize if you need to. Stand up for what you believe in. Do not assume there will always be another day, another opportunity, because one day there won't be, and the silence you leave behind will echo far louder than any words you were afraid to speak. When a person dies, they leave behind an empty space, a gap in the world where they once stood, their responsibilities, their role in the lives of others, their influence. Suddenly, it's all gone. The question is, who steps up to fill that space? Who takes on the responsibilities they once shouldered? Who ensures that what they built, what they cared for, and what they left behind is not abandoned? This is the weight of responsibility, and it is something too many people ignore until it is forced upon them. Responsibility is not something to run from. It is not an inconvenience, nor is it a punishment. It is the fundamental structure that gives life meaning. Without responsibility, a person drifts, untethered, reacting to life instead of shaping it. They avoid commitment, avoid leadership, avoid the burdens that come with caring for others, and in doing so, they make themselves weak. A life without responsibility is a life without purpose. It may feel easier in the short term to avoid hard work, to let others carry the load, to refuse to take ownership of anything beyond immediate pleasures, but in the long run, it leads to despair. Strength is built through the acceptance of responsibility. The man who passed away this morning, whoever he was, played a role in the lives of those around him. He carried burdens, made decisions, took action. Now someone else must step forward. And this applies to everyone. There is always something you can take responsibility for. Your family, your community, your own life. The world is full of problems, full of chaos, full of suffering. You can either contribute to that chaos by ignoring your duties, or you can take it upon yourself to create order where you can. It is easy to complain about what is wrong with the world. It is much harder to take action, to stand up and say, I will do what I can to make this better. That is what responsibility demands. That is what makes a person strong. If you are not carrying any weight, if you are not responsible for anything beyond your own fleeting desires, then you are not living as fully as you could. Responsibility is not something to be feared, it is something to embrace. Because in the end, when you are gone, the only question that remains is whether you left behind something worth carrying forward. One day, someone will stand up and speak about your life. They will reflect on who you were, what you did, and what you left behind. And when that moment comes, there will be only two things that remain: your actions or your inaction. What you did or what you failed to do, the choices you made or the opportunities you ignored, that is the weight of a life. That is the final judgment of your existence. Many people drift through life without thinking about their legacy. They assume they have time, that one day they will get serious, that eventually they will become the person they were meant to be. But life does not wait for you to be ready. It moves forward whether you take action or not. And when your time runs out, you don't get to go back and fix the things you neglected. The work you avoided remains undone. The relationships you ignored remain broken. The potential you never pursued remains lost. It is easy to believe that legacy is only for great men and women, for historical figures, for those who accomplish something extraordinary. But that is not true. Every single person leaves a mark, whether they intend to or not. A father leaves a mark on his children. A friend leaves a mark on those who relied on him. A worker leaves a mark on the people who depended on his effort. Whether that mark is one of strength, integrity, and responsibility, or one of apathy, selfishness, and wasted potential, is a direct result of the choices made every single day. Inaction is a decision. It is a decision to let life pass by without purpose. It is a decision to allow fear to dictate behavior, to avoid challenges, to leave meaningful work undone. And the consequences of that decision are real. They manifest as regret, as missed opportunities, as a life that could have been more but never was. No one is remembered for the things they almost did. They are remembered for what they committed to, for what they built, for how they carried themselves in the face of difficulty. Your legacy is being written right now. In every decision, in every habit, in every moment you choose to engage with life or retreat from it. The weight of your actions or the unbearable emptiness of your inaction will define how you are remembered. And that choice is yours alone to make.